Welcome, seekers. Welcome to this moon magic, the Virgo full moon on March 1st. This moon is intense, you guys. For those of you who feel full moons deeply, physically, emotionally, take it easy on yourself this day on March 1st and the lead up, probably the days around this, because it's intense energy. I'm going to be real with you. We just got out of the Leo Aquarius moon cycle, which is very playful and extroverted. So despite the eclipses, which ask us to evolve and change, that extroverted, fun, playful energy can often energize and enliven and bring growth and change in kind of a fun, playful way. The Virgo-Pisces axis, on the other hand, is about the introverted. It's about the internal process, both physical and spiritual. This is a very, very deeply spiritual axis. In a way that asks us to look at the physical and the spiritual and their conversation together. And often those conversations between our material world, the way that it's presented to us in the day-to-day and the mundane, and in just the reality of working out, eating the right foods, and the conversation with the amorphous, huge, dreamy possibility of Piscean energy can often get very muddled. They can often be so in disagreement that it's hard to find a place within which to be in the middle of that. So this full moon is that conversation, and that's why it is such a heavy hitter. It's really funny. The way that this series works for me is I'm going about my day, I'm going about my week, and I get the call, within the couple weeks before the next moon's phase. I have to sit down and talk about it, and it's just the day that it happens is the day that it happens. I was on my way to do other stuff, and here I am. I'm having a little cocktail. It fits, I feel like, with what we're going to be talking about here. It's actually kind of funny the way that it all works out. You'll see why as I talk about this. But at any rate, I got called. Here we are. We're sitting down. We're doing this. And I think it's important to be prepared for this full moon, because I do think it's going to touch, regardless of your placements or your house placements, it's just, there's a heftiness to this full moon. It's kind of the classic idea of a full moon, which is that, full moons make us kind of erratic and a little bit wild and things come up. Yeah. It's kind of got that classic vibe to it. So this is an interesting full moon. We have a lot of action in Pisces. Neptune's been hanging out in Pisces for a while, and it's at 13 degrees. So it's only 2 degrees away from the sun and 11 degrees of Pisces and the moon at 11 degrees of Virgo. So we're having a face-off between Neptune and the sun and the moon. Neptune and the sun are in this spiritual house, spiritual energy that is about the dream, the amorphous, the way what is reality, what is fiction? We don't know. We are swimming in the big picture, and everything is possible, and it's facing off against the moon, which the moon is always trying to mother us and help us in this Virgo energy of groundedness and day to day, and focus on the details and focus on how you're living in the day to day. Even talking about it right now, I'm feeling a little tension about this. Because the first word that came to mind when I thought of this full moon is vulnerability at its deepest. Vulnerability at its core level. What is vulnerability? It is having dreams and desires that we hide away and sharing them. Making the phone call you've been scared to make, connecting with somebody you've been scared to connect with, sharing an idea that you've had in your head for a business or a book or an art project or a musical adventure, whatever that deeply held project is, with somebody you trust. Piscean energy is extremely vulnerable. That's why so many of you Pisces out there have some really good spikes and barbs and saltiness, because man, that energy is the ultimate vulnerability. We are ultimately all connected and seeing of each other. And with the sun over there, and Neptune over there, and Venus and Mercury over there in Pisces, what does that do? It brings up our most vulnerable emotions, deeply held desires, deeply held beliefs. And it kind of brings, I mean, Pisces season will do this anyway. And then you have the full moon. It brings up this desire to want to act on the dream level, which is great. So you're going to feel exposed on that level because the energy is very much tied to how you're exposing of yourself in the world. And it's facing off against this very practical moon energy. In Virgo, at least. You know, the moon in Virgo is asking us to get focused on the details. But Virgo's a little bit of a nervous energy. It gets nervous. So you have all these vulnerable dreams bubbling up to the surface and all these ideas. And also the other thing with Pisces and with Neptune and that energy over there in this water house in the 12th sign is that the truth gets muddled. It gets confusing to find your foothold. When you are connected to the system, when you're connected in and you can feel and connect with everything becomes relative, and therefore it's hard to find a consistent narrative. It can bring up feelings of paranoia to have this face-off with the moon in Virgo and the sun in Pisces. It can make you feel like you don't know if you can trust somebody or not, because that dreamy quality starts to make a consistent narrative very difficult to piece together. I always give the advice on full moons not to act too impulsively, because full moons will make you want to start doing. You will see something clearly, you will feel something clearly or very poignantly, and then you will want to pick up the phone or make the change within that day or two. There will be a tendency to want to like call somebody up and tell them exactly how you feel about them, or a situation or a frustration. You know, you don't want to do that in this necessarily in a state of paranoia or nerves or tension. And I do think the conversation between the spiritual and the physical can cause some of that tension. So it's something to keep in mind. You are going to feel that your soul is on your sleeve because of all that Piscean action. But I think this is a really great gift. A lot of astrologers are talking about this this full moon as a time to detox, as a time to release any very addictive habits. Piscean energy often has an addictive element to it. You know, this is the sign that's connected with Hollywood, with storytelling, with fantasy. It's beautiful energy, but it does get connected with addiction, with getting pulled into these alternate realities. And with the grounded Virgo energy, it's a time to look at any addictions you have, to look at any physical ailments you have, and really slow down and make sure you're taking care of yourself. I agree with that. I think that's always a great thing to do, is to just stop and check in with yourself. Have you committed to yourself in radical self-care? Which I always call, calling the dentist, doing your taxes, eating something that makes you feel good, health. That's radical self-care in my book. However, I think that this moon actually has the potential to get you reconciled in the fact that you are a physical body that needs to be taken care of, and you're a soul that has dreams and aspirations that are allowed to exist. They are allowed to exist. You are allowed to strive for the big and the bold. And honestly, so the first word that came up for me with this moon was vulnerability. Just naked in the moonlight vulnerability with the dreams and the feelings you have for people. The other thing that I would say with that vulnerability is it does bring up darkness. It does bring up fears. The moon is bright, but that can illuminate where we are feeling our deepest pain. And I'm a big proponent of thinking positively, of, finding little things that you can help you feel better, to enjoy the moment more. However, I'm also a huge advocate of sitting with your darkness. sitting with your pain, acknowledging your fears, acknowledging your worries, acknowledging where a loss has changed your shape, changed your form through pain. I think it is such a beautiful thing to sit with that. And I think so often our most vulnerable dreams of new love, of new business, of new creative ventures are so deeply tied to the pain that we have experienced, whether it be the inspiration for that creativity or that it's been holding back us expressing that dream because it's so deeply ingrained as a story that we weren't allowed to do it, or we weren't good enough to do it, or we haven't learned enough to be ready to jump in there. So this moon is, I do think it's about vulnerability and sitting with our darkness and being very kind about it. I think it's such a beautiful thing to acknowledge your fear and to thank it for trying to help you. I think it's such a beautiful thing to acknowledge your pain and thank it for trying to help you. And I think it's okay to just spend some time in that space. It's so sacred and so beautifully powerful. And when you do that, it dissipates that paranoid, on edge feeling that this full moon might bring about. It dissipates the amorphous quality of that dream level. It dissipates the ability for that dream level, the amorphousness, the ascended level, to wreak havoc on the physical level, because you're acknowledging it as an entity and as a feeling and as a form of connection that is legitimate. That doesn't necessarily make it easy or lighthearted. Now let's pull some cards. The other thing to think about too, it's not just this face-off. Yes, full moons are definitely about face-offs between the polarities. It's part of the deal, but we do have Saturn over there hanging out in Capricorn. It's a soft trine. It's not super close degree-wise, but it's there and it's anchoring things a little bit. It's keeping a nice steady pace to everything, and I think that will help with the witnessing of pain. But a lot of you are going to be noticing that the narratives that you've written for yourselves or others have written for you and told you throughout your lives that are holding you back are going to be coming to the surface. The narrative of, I can't ever love again. The narrative of, I can't share my art because it's not good enough. The narrative of, I'm trying to think, there's so many that I could pick from that we get told. The narrative of, oh, my voice isn't good. I was told at 5 that I didn't have a good voice, and now I can never take singing lessons. All those little narratives that we think are so normal. They're going to be hanging. They're getting their day in the sun. I'm going to pull 3 cards tonight. I want to keep it simple. Like I said, I'm already feeling the vulnerable nervousness of this full moon. Sitting here with it, with the energy. Man. Wow, those cards came out pretty easy. Oh my gosh, they couldn't be more perfect. 5 of Cups, 10 of Cups, Page of Wands. If there was a card that represented narratives that can hold us back, things that we have to grieve, losses and experiences, those cuttings, like I was saying, our deepest dreams, our most deeply held dreams are often deeply associated with our deepest wounds. Here it is. This is the Mourning card. There may be a sense that you have to sit with the things that you mourn losing and having lost. This is the last full moon of the Western astrological calendar. We're going to be heading into Aries season. This is a great time to reconcile your experiences from the last year. Since the last Virgo full moon last year. And when you do that, when you honor this though, I'm not telling you to rush this process right here. Honor this. Give yourself a breath. Give yourself a day. Give yourself 2 days if you need it. 3 days, a week if you really need it. Be slow. Be gentle, be soft. Virgo Pisces energy is about a gentle softness, quite honestly. It's the feminine principle of healing on the earth and spirit levels. That's that axis. So you do that. It's coming. Ten of Cups is coming. That's the beautiful thing about witnessing your pain, witnessing your fear, witnessing your wounds, witnessing old narratives, is it does truly set you up for the Ten of Cups, for that kind of creativity and warmth. There's a deliciousness about the Ten of Cups energy that is about a complete ability to be present in what's next. This is the more. That's what I like to call it, the more. The stuff that right now in this physical being, maybe, you can't see it all. You can't see the relationship yet, or the completed business, or the completed book, or the job transfer, or the new city. You can't fully see it because it's not here in the physical. But it's the more over the horizon. It's the more. The more is delicious. If you embrace your blindness, you'll be able to see a lot clearer. Delicious energy. And through that emotionally charged journey we just saw with the 5 and then the 10 of Cups, the Page of Wands came up. The fiery spark of creativity. The fiery spark of the beginning of a bonfire. The fiery spark of a return to hope. Youth. Youth in the sense of belief in the more. Belief in the more. Belief in the warmth. When your hands and toes have become cold. Belief in the more. That is the Page of Wands. This really is such a wise, infinitely wise energy. Piscean energy is infinitely wise, and it will ask you to sit with your wounds and look for the more. So Virgo, honestly. And it brings us right into Aries season. I mean, this is Aries season if I ever saw Aries season. Here it is. We're, a couple weeks down the line, 2-3 weeks down the line, we're going to be right in there. Man, you guys, I knew when I got the call to sit down with this, I would be going through my own little mini journey, like preview of what this moon is going to be like. Like I said, it's going to be really personal for me. I'm a Virgo moon. And I think it's so important to slow down and look and acknowledge oneself. That is true, deep self-love. Being seen by yourself, think about that. We so often want others to witness our pain or witness our greatness or witness an experience we've had in life. And sometimes I think we forget to slow down and witness it for ourselves. And it seems so obvious. It seems like we are doing it all the time, but I don't think we are. I think a lot of times we skip that step. And I think that's the greatest sign of self-respect, is in witnessing for ourselves. What we have accomplished, what we have experienced, what we have weathered, what we have jumped into and jumped out of. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Now, with that being said, I'm actually taking a bit of a step back and slowing down a little bit myself in the lead up to this moon. I do want to work with you though. And I am trying my best to get as many appointments as I can in. So as usual, the best way to figure out if we can get something going in the next month is if you email me. I will try my best to catch up with all my emails. Really, truly, I would love to hear from you and figure out something that we can do. Whether that's a video recording, which is a little bit easier for me right now, or if I can try and get you squeezed in, I really will, because I love working with you all so much. I miss it when I take a step back, but sometimes I have to do my self-care as well. So like I said, if you go to my website right now and you look at my calendar, you're not getting in until April, pretty much. So email me and I can give you a better sense of when I can work with you. Take it easy, you guys. Take it easy on this full moon. It's about savoring, as I always say. And one last thing before I close out. With the 5 of Cups, yes, witness the pain, witness that part of yourself that wants to protect you on like a wild, lizard brain level. However, don't feed into the paranoia and act on it. Don't think the worst of others. They're also witnessing their pain. They're also doing what you're doing here with this full moon energy. So just breathe through it. I tell you what, as we shift through a couple of days later, that sense of tension will ease considerably. So something to keep in mind as well. I hope this moon is beautiful for you all and does bring you this warmth and this spark. I think it will. I'm sending you all the best, and I will talk to you for the Pisces new moon just down the road. Bye, my seekers.